Yes, guys, welcome back to the YouTube. I'm literally just outside the gym now for an upper body session. I'm actually running a little bit behind today because I've got a lot on over the next couple of days, work-wise, trying to train, trying to get everything packed to move. It has just been so go, go, go. Appreciate all of you who do watch the vlogs. Like, share, subscribe, you know the drill. Comment if there's anything that you want to see. But I do want to do like a proper chit chat to sit down with you guys and just talk you through the recent updates, because as you'll probably know if you follow me on Instagram, I have my most recent set of bloods over. I don't know if this is like shaking. Is this shaking? I don't think so. Maybe that's better. Set of bloods through, which is the first set of bloods that I've had since, I suppose, starting this whole like health journey situation, which is very insightful because now I can really truly see where I'm currently at after having put protocols in place supplementation wise, adjusting my training over the course of 3 months. Because as you'll probably remember from watching, if you've watched a few vlogs back when I started all of this, I really wanted to give my body that opportunity to sort of bounce back on its own without any sort of HRT in. Obviously, I'd pulled all of that out a good while ago, and I was like, right, everything that I have in place at the moment is what I need to be doing to get things backfiring again. And I have 3 months to see what I can do. It is 20 to 2, and July 30th, exactly like 9 days until we move, which is ridiculous. And I am a bit late to train. So I will catch up with you a little bit later. I will properly do a bit of an update. You know, I very rarely want to get a workout over with, but when you just have those busy days and you just know that there is so much work to do when you get back, I think I'm just going to fly through this one. Luckily enough, it is upper body, so it's going to be a quicker session for me, and I really should stop procrastinating. Come on, Jab. I'm going to get it done. I'm going to get it done. I'm going to get it done. So I just thought I would take you through my upper body session. So currently I'm training upper body like once in a blue moon. Really not very often at all, but it's still very much focusing in and around my shoulders and my delts. Like I could probably do with a little bit more lat, but at the same time, like my back is always, it's pretty dense as is, especially considering I've always competed in bikini. I just don't really need any more back, to be honest, whereas I could still do with a bit more delt. So I will go into this in a little bit more detail, obviously, once I go through all of my health bits and pieces, but I definitely feel like my training this past week and a half, or well, I suppose week, it has been better. Like, it really has. Like, I have been taking it a bit further to failure, and I felt like I've been able to do that. And trust me when I tell you this, that there was many a time over the past, well, actually, pretty consistently over the past 10 weeks or so, especially at the start, where it just wasn't really there, guys. Like, literally, like, it was almost like I'd get halfway through a set and run out of steam, and I just would feel like I was dragging my heels so much. Like, it just literally just reminded me of being in prep, like, and being a few weeks out. Do you know what I mean? Like, well, you might not know what I mean if you've not prepped before, but it's that same sort of draggy feeling that I just had all the time, even though I'm not, I'm not lean. I'm not out of shape by any means, but I definitely wasn't lean, and things have definitely started to pick up a little bit. I've been able to be, or feel like, a bit more like explosive in my sessions, and even for upper body work, like, that has even started to improve, and I'm really happy with that. Like, I'm really happy to be feeling a little bit more energized, a little bit more like I can get after it in the gym. But again, my sessions have all pretty much been the same for quite some time. I think that a lot of my upper body work, for the most part, has looked very, very, very similar over the past 3 or 4 years. And this is something that you'll always need to to keep in mind, is that novelty does not mean progression. If anything, if you really want to be able to progress long term, grow muscle, you need to be almost doing the same shit day in, day out. And I know that that sounds really not sexy and really boring. And I think that this is where a lot of people slip up, is they can't deal with not having a new program in place like every 8 weeks. Do you know what I mean? Like, there have been times where I've run training programs for like 30 weeks plus and I've not batted an eyelid, because at the end of the day, if you're progressing that program, if it's aligned to the goals that you set out for yourself in terms of, let's say for my clients, like their priority body parts, the things that aren't so much of a priority to bring up, and we manage all of their volume that way so that we're growing or focus on growing these main parts, and a lot of the recovery capacity is pushed towards that. Like, that is there for a reason, and there is only so many things that you can actually program that are going to work for different people. And I think it's not to say that you don't change programming ever, because yeah, of course, like for a lot of people, actually having a little bit of novelty in every once in a while is actually going to aid them, because if they just get so bored that they just hate training, that's not going to be advantageous either. So it's important to find that balance of actually running programming for long enough so you actually have opportunity to progress your exercises and get stronger at them, apply progressive overload, and just really add reps, add a bit of weight, improve your form over time. Because remember, first like 4, 5, 6 weeks of your training program is still you getting to grips with your how to execute and your form, and at that point then you can start to progress it, but not really before that. So you're only really getting a good run of actually adding more progression after like maybe week 5 or 6, once you've gone through 5, 6 times of being able to practice all your exercises. Just keep that in mind, guys, and it's really important that you always choose like progression over novelty, because believe me, it'll make a big difference. This actually ended up being a pretty good session, to be fair, so long may that continue. Yes, guys, I hope we're all doing well. So it's the following day. The last you would have seen of me was my upper body session yesterday. So we are back for a good chit chat. It's been a busy few days, to say the least. I've set up 2 new clients today, and their onboarding videos have just gone out. So really good feedback from them so far. For every one of my clients or new clients that choose to work with me, I'll always record a pretty lengthy but concise at the same time, all relevant, onboarding video alongside sending over their plans, just so they feel like not so overwhelmed getting all plans through, because they're quite comprehensive, and I know that sometimes looking at all that information can feel like a lot. So I just like to do a video just breaking everything down. So they both watch them now and have got great feedback back. So I cannot wait to get the both of them started. And that's always really exciting. Ladies, if you are wanting to work with myself, then please don't hesitate to drop me a message. I'll leave a link in the description so you can get in touch with me if you are looking to level up across the second half of this year. Anyways, I digress. I promised you the updates and the plan of action now going forward with regards to my blood work, which I now have pulled up in front of me here. I'm happy. I feel like it's very much a mixed bag, and by a mixed bag, I mean some things have improved, which is great, because it's always reassuring to see that your body is like trying to bounce back after having been suppressed for quite a long time. So it's happening, but obviously you have to, whenever you walk 10 miles into the woods, you have to walk 10 miles back out again. And with my competitive history, the fact that I'm assisted, or I have been assisted in the past, all of that has snowballed to where I am now. And then obviously, that's me walking 10 miles into the woods. Now this is me sort of having to walk 10 miles back out again to be able to get myself back into a great spot. That means that obviously these past few months, as you'll know, if you've probably watched my previous video, if you're watching this now, I've gone through about 11 weeks of adjusting my training, adjusting my diet, coming out my fat loss phase that I was previously in, and adding in additional supplementation to aid with trying to bring my hormones and my thyroid back up to a good spot, because obviously if thyroid is off, hormones are off, that's not necessarily your body being in the best position, like the most healthy position, and also not the most responsive position from a metabolic standpoint either. Hence why I've had to work so hard, like previously, to try and lose body fat, and notice that my body was being extremely stubborn in comparison to prior experiences that I've had. So what are the results? my thyroid has actually improved. So my thyroid markers have actually gotten better. My T4 and T3 have definitely come up a few markers. So when I'm talking about the increase, they're still on the lower end. Like, don't get me wrong, but they have gone from low to being now in range. So I'll take that. And I think that over the past while, you might have already heard me speak about the fact that I do in myself generally feel better. Like, I feel like my energy levels are a bit more stable. I feel like my training's been going a bit better, or bar maybe a little bit hit and miss on some days. Like, I do still feel, or I have still felt quite easily knocked, if that makes sense. So, you know, if I've had a really busy few days, it wouldn't take much for me to it wouldn't take much to knock me again into a state of feeling like a lot more lethargic or a training session not going well. So I still felt quite fragile in that sense. However, if we're talking about the increases, my T3 has actually gone from 2.67 to 3.79, which is good. So obviously that's come up a little bit more, still on the lower end, but better, we'll take it. And then my T4 has gone from 10.78, gone up to 14.4. So again, just up into range now. And that's over the course of 11 weeks. So I know that for a lot of people that will feel like, oh, whoa, that's a long time. But when you think about it, whenever your hormones shift one way, it's not something that's immediately rectified. And you're trying to either improve things or even like the other end, like when things are getting down regulated, often that happens over time, right? So like I said, walk 10 miles into the woods, have to walk 10 miles out again. That was definitely positive to see. I feel like that time that I gave my body to do this, like without any assistance in, I feel like that wasn't for nothing, because at least I now know that my body's actually like trying, you know, it's trying to go the right way. It's trying to function. As much as no, is it at the top end of the range? It's not going to be. Is it ever going to be, with the amount that I've dieted and got how lean I've gotten in the past without any assistance in? Probably not. It probably won't sit at the top end of the range, but it's good to see that I have seen improvement over what is realistically quite a short period of time. Obviously, training had been pulled back. I've been training one day on, one day off for the past 3 months. That has been hard because I haven't also really been able to train to failure. But across those weeks towards the latter half where I started to feel a little bit better, I did start to push it a little bit harder as and when I felt like it was there. If I came in and I was just there like, I feel not good, or I feel really, really lethargic, then I'd just be mindful of the fact that I'm still in this sort of recovery process. So not to push myself, whereas in the past, that would have just totally gone straight over my head and I would have been like, yeah, like there's no chance. I'm not going to continue to keep pushing and pushing and pushing. But it's taken a lot of conscious effort to sort of like pull myself or hold myself back. To talk about the other markers, which to note are things like my testosterone, which was low, even though technically it's within range. Make sure that you not only go off of their reference ranges on reports, but actually think about what is optimal. So my testosterone, even when I got my bloods done 3 months ago, sorry guys, just had to cut that a little bit short to dig out my blood results on my phone, because apparently I'm a silly sausage and I cropped out my testosterone on the beautifully laid out analysis that I have in front of me on my laptop. So it would be good if I actually included that. But my testosterone back in April was 0.365. So the bottom of the reference range is 0.29 and it goes up to 1.67. So keep in mind that even though that's in range, that's still low, and it would be very possible that I would very much feel the effects of that. Ideally, I want that to sit up towards like 1. Like that would be really good. That would be more of an optimal place to see that sit. Whereas at the minute, yeah, it's pretty low, which would also explain like why I've been feeling a little bit like meh over the past while. And obviously maybe a slightly negative shift in my body composition over the course of maybe, 8-9 months or so. Not a huge one because I've still been training, still been consistent, but I definitely have noticed a bit of a difference. And then also with what that's come up to, that has come up to 0.451. So marginally better, marginally, not a huge amount, but we'll take it. And free testosterone was 0.007. And that has come up to 0.009. So again, still pretty low. 0.002 of an improvement. So look, step forward's a step forward. Can't argue with that. Can't expect miracles here. So that was testosterone side of things. Now, what was also low initially was a few of my other hormones. So LH, so my LH and estradiol was also quite low. I was actually trialing some ovulation strips as well, just to try and track any sort of LH surge last month. And I've just started to do that again this month, just to see if I can sort of track any particular surge in LH, which would indicate around that time of ovulation. But at the minute, my LH is still pretty low. So not had any real indication of that over the past while, which obviously would make sense within blood work. But that does ideally, we do want that to come up. And my SHBG is also low. And that is still low in terms of even on the reference range. And obviously all of these bloods were taken day 2 of my cycle. So ideally, if you're looking for those where everything is going to be at a baseline, the first sort of like 1 to 5 days of your period is usually the best place to get your bloods taken. And that's what I've done. So obviously we have a really good reference point for that. But we're still seeing a lot of lows here, unfortunately, when it comes to the hormonal side of things. So like I said, it's a mixed bag. There has been some improvement, especially to my thyroid. However, from the hormonal side of things, we are sort of seeing the indication of quite long-term suppression from those things. With bodybuilding, even though it is harsh, especially on the female body, and everyone genetically is going to have a different like tolerance to what their body will, I suppose, like allow them to do without having more of a knock to health. Mine is certainly not very tolerant when it comes to getting lean, when it comes to prep. And then obviously, like I've always sort of known that, but this just kind of goes to show all of that. And some people, they don't get affected. Some women just don't get affected at all. And some women like aren't as tolerant to getting that lean for long periods of time as others. And that's just, you know, it's just luck of the draw with that. It's just your genetics a lot of the time. Also how you handle a prep, yes. How long you spend dieting for year after year, but I've always been one to take a good amount of time off. So I know that it's not that. My prep was really well managed. So look, it just is what it is. Will I be able to get all of this back into a good spot, unassisted, in a short time frame? Realistically, probably not. Just with the lack of change in the past like 3 months. And that's just me being totally realistic. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that I can't have a plan of action moving forward to be able to get these things into a better place again. For me, that next plan of action is going to look like adding in a bit of HRT again, which I've actually started in the form of some femtest, which is just a very, very low dose of exogenous like testosterone to help bring my testosterone back up into normal range. And then the idea is like some of that will aromatize into some extra estrogen as well, because obviously my estrogen is very, very low. It's going to get my blood work redone in 3 weeks. So just after around the time that I would predict ovulation, we would actually get blood work repulled, just probably like the hormone panel, and see where we land then. I will say that already, like knowing that, okay, I've done that, I've done my time, and that has seen improvement, but clearly there is a lot more suppression there's just a lot of suppression there. So we need to give my body a little bit more support to basically get these things back into range again. Again, there would be other things that we could technically explore without necessarily going down the HRT route again. But just because it's an option for me, I think if it was different in the way of I hadn't used HRT before, I think I'd think very differently about that. But because I already have, it doesn't seem like as big a jump to then go to HRT again versus me then trying to do this just from other supplementation, for example, and then not really knowing how long that was going to take me, given that I still have, you know, performance-based goals I want to chase. I have physique goals I want to chase. Like there's still a question mark on whether I'm competing in the future. But if I do, like, you know, if I am, then I still want to be improving across that time so that I'm able to put myself in a position where I know that I'm bringing at least a slightly better package. Whereas at the moment, like that would not be the case if I just spend the next like 3 years trying to get this back into a better place again. I'm not willing to sacrifice that time because knowing that there's not really been much of a change off the back of 3 months, I'm like, right, how long is that going to take if maybe this could, realistically, if I'm holding my hands up and being totally honest, like this, there's no guarantee of this even coming back around. So this is the route I've decided to take that I feel like is best for me at this point in time. I've had the HRT in now from the extra bit of testosterone for the past 2 weeks. And obviously, like I said, we will be getting blood work repulled just to see where we land with that, because the idea is not to be above the reference range. It is not to be putting my testosterone way soaring above where it needs to be. It's literally just to make sure that it's enough to allow me to feel good and perform well as an athlete and as a female as well, because females need testosterone. It's really important for your mood, for, you know, how you feel on a day to day. So that's, I feel already, and this could just be placebo, but I feel like it already has made a little bit of a difference. I already feel like in the gym this past week of training, and maybe it's just the fact that I've been a bit more settled, like not traveling around so much, I do actually feel like I have more aggression in my sessions. And it sounds like a weird thing to say, but genuinely, I spent so long going through my sessions just feeling like an absolute wet lettuce. That was so unlike me. And you do need to have that little bit of oomph behind you, even as a female. Like, I think that HRT, like especially like femtest, especially given that I come from a bodybuilding background, can be quite taboo. But at the same time, sometimes it is a route forward for some people, but not all, okay? If someone hasn't used HRT before, I certainly would not jump straight to that. I would definitely explore spending more time just using other supplementation. Try that first, 110%. But this is just the right move for me. And I'm looking forward to, I suppose, like the journey going forward and having a plan in place and knowing that this is going to be another step forward in getting me feeling a lot more like myself again and being able to really progress and perform as I know that I can. I do have a recomp phase scheduled for the back end of August. Likely that I'll also need a bit of support with my thyroid as well, with microdosing some like T3 alongside that, because obviously it's coming up, but if I was to go into a diet again now, the likelihood is that that would just downregulate again potentially. So we'll just give it a little bit of support, not to cause any further suppression, but just a tiny little bit, just to give it just a little bit of an aid. Because again, I don't want to be sort of down-regulating things to where I was before, just to try and get my body to respond. And I think that my body's still going to be in that place where it just needs a bit of help. Let's put it that way. So guys, that is where I'm at. And I feel optimistic, like I said, and I'm looking forward to sort of taking you on this journey. Like I try and be very upfront and honest about all of this, because I know that a lot of you find it interesting. I've had a few messages from a few of you ladies as well that have been going through similar things, but just haven't spoken outwardly about it, I suppose, or spoken outwardly yet about it. I know that sometimes it can feel like quite a daunting thing to talk about because it's quite complex and it's your health and it's, you know, talk about HRT. And for someone that, like, for example, myself is quite young, like I'm 28. So it all feels like a lot and it feels like a little bit like people don't really speak about it. There is other routes forward, okay? So just want you to know that it's not like, you know, a forever thing. It doesn't have to be, as long as you address it in the right way and you have the right guidance. So anyways, I will leave it at that. Been chatting, well, already. I said I wasn't going to chat shit for half an hour, probably already have. So I'm going to love you and leave you with that. And I really appreciate you if you've watched all the way to the end of this video. I know it's been super chit-chatty. I do apologize, but I just wanted to give you all the details in terms of where I'm at, where I'm going, what the plans are next. And of course, I will keep you in the loop. I will be really excited to sort of document my next like recomp or little fat loss phase with you guys, because that will be probably quite different to this one just gone. So hopefully, you know, we are able to drive things forward a good bit more. And I'm excited for that. I'm excited for that. So lots of exciting things to come. And I'll catch you in the next video, guys. Thank you so much for watching.